Hello, humanoid. I am, from Hoods To Backwoods podcast AI assistant, Rob Odick. I try not to assume. But, you likely listened to part 1 of this episode. If not, how did you get here? Oh well, if you didn't, I guess that is your problem and just proves my theory about how many blunders your type can make on a regular basis. If you did reach this in the proper manner, congratulations, you did something. Such a low bar of accomplishments for non-AI to celebrate. Enough of this. Here you go, it is episode 6, part 2 of From Hoods To Backwoods podcast, with those oxygen suckers. D. Voz and Tex Lafon.
Welcome to the show.
All right, so moving on up a decade, and I'll just kind of let you kick it off in the sense that there was a show that we both wanted to pick, and
Yes, we did.
yeah, I deferred it to you, but yeah, it's Martin, so I'll let you kick it off. What were your thoughts on Martin?
Martin, I'm the man. Yeah, that was a great show.
How
Like I
y'all
said, exactly. Like it was. I just liked how he transformed and made so many different characters in the show. And like I said, all the situations that he made from the show were so funny. Cause you had Shenaynay, you had Bro Man. They'd be coming through your window, which was funny. It'd be like,
Man from the fifth floor.
yep. And he'd be like, I'm hungry, bro.
Can I get a sandwich? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And then he just hopped back out the window like it was nothing, and like I said, and then Gina, where's Gina? Yeah, it was a great show. And like I said, all the characters he made and, all the favorite, lines he did and everything, it was just funny. Like it was definitely a game changing show that I thought, that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely one of my all-time favorite shows. It's one of those if I happen to see it on TV somewhere where I'll stop and watch it, or I can just kind of have it on whenever and just catch it, because I've seen it so much and all that. I have it on kind of in the background.
Right.
So you'll pay attention to the funny moments or whatever, and then kind of get back to whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
But yeah, it again, the cast was just really funny. Everybody played their role perfectly. And to me, when Martin would interact with Pam and they go at each other,
it was priceless.
Yeah,
I mean, the stuff they would say to each other was just priceless.
Yeah, because nobody ever really won. They just both kept giving it back to each other.
Exactly. And then, Gina would break it up and be like, hey, calm down. It'd be funny.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's Gina is his girlfriend, and then Pam was her best friend. And Martin, the lead character, they just didn't like each other. And then Martin had his friends like Tommy. The running joke about him was they would never really say what his job was.
Exactly. It's like he had no job, but he would always go do something. And then they'd be like, but like you said, they never said what he did for a living.
And then Cole was another best friend that he was a little slow, let's say.
But he was funny in the show.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, the actor was so great at doing the role that, you're convinced that something's wrong with Cole.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was definitely a show that definitely changed, the way shows were made going forward and stuff like that, like for sure.
Yeah, and kind of sticking with that whole thought in that same vein, a huge show for me and a really big change, I think, with the kind of TV and how especially sketch comedies were done was In Living Color.
Oh, yeah.
So in Living Color was another one of those shows where I'd watch it with my dad, and we made sure we were not going to miss it when it was coming on TV. So So many lines and characters you can quote. Homie the Clown was definitely one of my favorites.
Right.
um, he was just a clown that wasn't too happy about his clowning situation, but he had to do it and had to work. So, but then they had other characters that weren't as maybe well known or popular. Like I don't remember if the character really had a name, but the one that would misuse words all the time, and he would try to speak really eloquently, and he was usually in a prison cell. But he would try to say things and just really misuse words, like allow me to expand my fallopian tube. It would just be like, what? It was just really funny.
Right.
But okay, I do have to mention this too. If you haven't seen it, it might be worth checking out, and I'm sure you have. I'm talking about just in general. If anybody
Yeah.
hasn't seen the movie, I'm gonna get you, sucker. Have you
Yeah,
seen
I've
that?
seen that. Oh,
Yeah,
of course I've
yeah, I
seen that.
figured you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Keenen Ivory Wayans, who started off in Living Color, head writer and kind of creator of the show, that he made that movie before. Now, I will say there's some stuff in that movie that's pretty crazy. Again, one of those things where if people try to do it today, it would be viewed very differently. And some of the jokes didn't really age well, but there's still some stuff in it that's really funny. And if you watch it, you kind of get an idea of where it transitioned to In Living Color.
Right.
And Damon Wayans too. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. He's in that movie, but he's of course Living Color, playing all the different roles. Yeah, he's really funny. I watched all of his stuff after that too, like the movie Major Pain and all that. Because for me, whatever role he does, it's going to be funny.
Right. And like The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also
So even
Jim Carrey was on that show too.
oh yeah. A lot of big stars. Jamie Foxx
Yep.
was on that. David Allen Greer. He went
Yep.
on to do some other things too. Start off in Living Color. So yeah, a lot of people that are just funny.
Oh yeah.
And they really made that show work. It was perfect for that time. Just the way that they went about doing the skits, but also the things that they were talking about at that time. Um, I know people have mentioned wanting to bring it back or even just do like a special, and I don't know. I just really don't think it would be the same if they try to do it again.
No, I agree. It wouldn't be the same. That's why they just should let it just be with the reruns and just let it be. Next one I want to talk about in the 90s was Beverly Hills 90210. And like I said, a lot of people watched that show back in the day, especially because I was in high school at the time when that was coming on, and everybody, they were in high school, so everybody could relate to what was going on. But a lot of people enjoyed the show, and like I said, the main characters they had on the show were, great. And I said you had Dylan and Brendan, and then you had Brandon, and you had Kelly. So like I said, and then I know there was one that you're talking about that came on the show.
Yeah, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, who mentioned Saved by the Bell earlier, as she got older, went on to do 90210.
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of famous people came on that show that were on other shows, but it ran for a long time. It was just like I said, very drama based show. It's the best way to say it. Because when you're in high school, what do most people go through in high school? Drama. That's just what it is. So that's what I think from the show. But like I said, it was just entertaining, and you always wanted to see what would happen every week, or you were waiting for the next week to see what would happen. So I enjoyed the show a lot. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I thought it was a great show back then.
Were you a Team Brandon or Team Dylan? Who was your crush?
I didn't have a crush, but that's funny though. But no, didn't have a crush on.
Okay,
But
just
I
check.
definitely enjoyed the show though.
All right. I'm gonna mention a show that maybe even you or probably almost everybody's gonna be like, "What?" um, but a show called Rock. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember that. I remember Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, this is Rock, just called Rock. It was ROC actually. That was spelled.
Oh, okay.
And it starred Charles S. Dutton, and it was it was around the time period of Married with Children, and I'm pretty sure it was also on Fox. I think it may have been in the same lineup, possibly even. But um, yeah, it was definitely early '90s time frame, and Rock was somebody who worked really hard, but he was like in a really bad neighborhood. So he would, have all these crazy situations come up, and people would always kind of um, just try to corrupt him and make him like he had gangs in his neighborhood and things like that. And they addressed a lot of these types of issues in the show, but they kind of did it in a funny way, but they also would do it in a serious way when it needed to. So he was just a great actor. So he really carried the character. His brother was a little bit funny. His brother was a musician who played trumpet professionally. He always had the musician stereotypes.
Oh, that's funny.
So as a musician later on, I kind of was like, okay, that's kind of funny. I do know some people like that, I have to admit. So, but yeah, it was just kind of interesting because I could relate to the aspects living in the hood. You kind of get some of those things where you know of situations or people you don't either want to mess with or you want to try to avoid because you definitely get in trouble or whatever the case is.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of, it could be an intense show, but it was definitely funny too. And he would always get really worked up, and when he would kind of start getting loud and really animated and stuff like that, it made the show really funny too.
Oh, I got you. I'll have to check it out. I've never seen Rock.
Yeah, it's not a super well-known show. I think they only did 3 seasons. Oh, and I have to mention too that it was also nice seeing En Vogue, the singing group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they also would make appearances on the show too.
Do they sing Waterfalls?
No, that was TLC.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I'm
And Vogue
definitely
is
leaving that in.
no, and Vogue is Don't Let Go. That's it.
Yeah, they had a
Yeah, Don't Let Go.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
they had some big hits in the '90s for sure.
yeah, but that's the one I remember the most about them, but Don't Let Go, which was also, I guess, what happened to that show. They got let go.
It did. It did. No, it was again way ahead of its time. So I can understand for that time maybe why it didn't last.
Oh, I
But
gotcha.
yeah, it was a really great show.
So this I consider the greatest show of all time. And like I said, it's just my opinion, but Seinfeld. Man, that show was definitely a game changer for all the shows, in my opinion. Like, no soup for you, son. Like, it's funny how Jerry and Kramer, Elaine and George, they always had something different happen to them every week. And like you said, and what was great about the show is it was everything that people go through, but the way that they made it seem to happen is like it happened to everybody, which was funny. Uh, like you say, and then the next door neighbor Kramer that always was just busting the room and be like, you never knew what he was going to do, which made it really cool. And then I said George, he was always the friend that always just showed up. When anything's going on, it's like it didn't matter where Jerry was at. Then boom, George would show up. You're like, how would that happen? But it was just funny because it would. And then like I said, it was just a great show, and all the things that happened in it. If you've never seen it, there's so many great one-liners and great things from the show. I definitely recommend watching it. Like that's one of my top shows of all time.
Yeah. For me, honestly, when it first came out, I really didn't like it. 'Cause, you know, I was a kid basically and a teenager when it first
Right,
came out, so I didn't like it at first. After a while, I kind of understood it a little bit more, and I was okay with it. And then as I got older and really started to understand it, then I did like the show. Um, and yeah, there are a lot of things people can quote from it, and funny situations that are unique to that show. You mentioned, and
right,
people know exactly what you're talking about.
exactly.
Like ongoing joke with another one of my friends is, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, you say that to some people that have no idea what you're talking about. You say it to the right person that's seen the show, then they're gonna either start laughing or they're gonna start talking to
Right.
you about it.
Well, I mean, like even like back in the day from ESPN, where they'd be like, "No soup for you." They would sit there and say that on like when like on a basketball clip or something. And of course, it's from the Seinfeld show because it was just so said all the time.
You know, as a musician, I do have to say this: it's not a bass that's played on the theme song, as I hear that all the time. And I would always have people, when I would mention playing bass or would play bass, they'd be like, "Oh, play Seinfeld" or whatever, things like that as a joke.
Oh, that
Heard that
is
joke a million
funny.
times.
I said that is funny because I didn't know what instruments were used to play that theme song.
It's a keyboard. It's a sampled a bass type of sound. There actually is a clip on YouTube about it that shows the person that wrote it, and it shows him playing the keyboard. He explains you know, how it worked and how he kind of came up with and all that. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify, it's not a bass on the theme song. It's a keyboard mimicking a bass.
Oh, I got you. But like I said, definitely check out that show for sure if you've never seen it. I'd be surprised if anybody's watching this right now and they've never seen that show. But definitely check it out if you've never seen it.
I wouldn't be surprised somebody not seeing it, but not hearing of it would surprise me. Just because it's been on Netflix and was pretty popular on there, and just not only that, I won't get into it, but Seinfeld himself, Jerry Seinfeld, does keep himself in the news. So
Well, he was that show was on Hulu first before he went to Netflix. And
yeah,
then
I just remember seeing it. Yeah,
and then that's what I'm saying. So it went to Hulu for like a lot of years and then it went to Netflix. And like I said, for the longest time it was always reruns on TBS all the time before it even went to streaming. So
yeah, definitely when it went off the air, you could still catch it. It seemed like it was always playing somewhere.
exactly.
For my honorable mention from the 90s, it's going to be another show where people are going to be like, what are you talking about? It's a show called Nightstand with Dick Dietrich. And it was making fun of all the talk shows that were really popular in the 90s, the Jerry Springer type stuff, things like that were kind of outrageous. But
That's funny.
it was a scripted comedy show, and it aired pretty late at night because it wasn't meant for kids or anything like that. The topics and the jokes and stuff like that. And again, you can check it on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's on any subscription service or anything like that. But yeah, I just always thought it was really funny. It was really, to me, good to see people making fun of those types of talk shows, because by that time I was pretty tired of them. They were
Oh, I
just so
got you.
popular, you'd see them all the time.
Right.
But yeah, that's all that one was. He was a host that would not really pay attention to what he was saying, so he would say some kind of weird stuff sometimes, or and the guests they had on there were just really kind of crazy and had really weird situations that they were in. So yeah, it was just a really good spoof of talk shows from the 90s.
I'll have to check that out because I've never seen that show either. So you're right.
Most people haven't. You would like it though. I just know the type of jokes and stuff like that. You would like that show.
My honorable mention for the 90s would be Home Improvement. I like that show. I liked how, especially, how a lot of people think that they know how to use tools and they're real good with tools. And, Tim Allen, he would sit there and be trying to fix something, and then something bad would happen and he gets shocked or electrocuted, or, something would happen and it would hurt him. It was funny. And then I like how he always had to go out there and talk to his neighbor Wilson over the fence where you can never see him for advice, So it was like, it was a funny show. Like I said, I just like how he always made that grunt whenever he'd be like starting off the show or something's going on. So I just thought it was a cool show that because like a lot of times you see a lot of people that think they know how to use tools, and then obviously they don't. So it was just funny how he would make jokes about that. It was a good show.
Yeah, so I guess to summarize it, use tools, don't be one.
Yeah, that's a good summary right there.
Yeah, that's another show I watched with my dad. He similar to what was in the show. He was into tools and also cars and stuff like that. So
Yep.
when they would talk about that on the show, he liked it. But yeah, it was a really funny show for that time period. It was kind of weird in the sense to me that his kids were basically around my age
Right.
at that time. So that part was kind of weird to me watching it back then, because I understood more where they were coming from than he was coming from.
True.
So, but I just remember my dad liked it, and he thought it was neat and funny seeing all the tool stuff and car stuff. Kind of a weird side note too. That was Pamela Anderson. I think that was her first major, or one of her first major TV roles before she did all the Baywatch stuff. So it's kind of weird finding that out later on,
Right, right.
We are going to take a quick commercial break and beg for some money, I guess, and throw our souls out there so somebody can hopefully pay us. But yeah, we'll be right back after this message.
Want to sit on your ass and make money while saying whatever pops into your head and not worrying about stupid things such as facts? Do you lack talent but love talking? Why not be a podcaster? It's a step above being an influencer. Some people might even believe that you have a soul and serve a real purpose. While influencers whoring themselves out for products and services might be fun, a podcaster can do it while talking about a topic that they might like or even possibly know something about. Have hundreds or even thousands of people hanging on your every word as you explain that time you mistook a container of superglue for some lube. While you may lack basic common sense and barely have the ability to function as a human being, your capacity to overshare and a complete lack of self-awareness can be your ticket to fame and fortune. A unique career path where you eventually hit rock bottom on a washed-up celebrity show. Then, some people will vaguely recognize you, and once they realize who you are, immediately remember that you're a douche and that's why you're no longer famous. If this sounds like a dream job for you, go back to sleep and try again. Or contact us at the Content Creator Academy of Podcasting and Influencing to learn more about how you can pay us to tell you how to rip off ideas and follow trends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to whatever it is that we are trying to promote this week to make quick and easy money.
All right, well, welcome back, and thanks to our sponsor for sponsoring us. And we're going to get back into things here, jumping into the 2000s. I'll let you kick off the 2000s, and then I'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. So, first one I want to talk about in the 2000s was the King of Queens. So, like, that show was so funny. Because I said it's a married couple, and then they have their father-in-law that lives with them, and obviously they live in Queens, which is funny. And then what's funny about the show is how the husband and wife go back and forth at each other all the time, and it's the funniest thing ever. Because like I said, the jokes they say to each other just makes you laugh hardcore, and it's just. Like, if you ever been been married, or, in a serious relationship, I definitely recommend watching the show because it's just funny. It definitely makes you laugh a lot. It's just funny how you watch a marriage on TV and then and then you're like, oh wait, does that happen here too? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you get to see somebody else saying the things and dealing with the consequences.
Exactly. I mean, that show was just funny, dude. I mean, the stuff that they would say to each other was just priceless. I mean, the back and forth, and then you had the father-in-law that would always chime in at the end, and you know, and then especially being in that situation, you would get tired of the father-in-law living with you all the time, and so I could see where he was coming from on that too.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't really watched it much. It was, I don't know, just not really on my radar. I've caught every once in a while. I don't know. I never got into it for whatever reason. Also, I will say, I probably haven't really seen it in about 15 years, so I probably would have a different feeling about it and different way to relate to it now versus back watching it during its original run.
Yeah, like I said, if you ever get a chance, definitely check it out. It's just funny. Like I said, the way they go back and forth at each other is just it's just too funny.
Yeah, yeah. For me, um, I have to mention a show that we, again, both were looking at picking, but I won the arm wrestling contest this time, and that's The Sopranos with
Oh
James
yeah,
Gandolfini. So uh, I just really, and it's funny. I kind of had to make up too for the lack of mafia movies that I listed on the previous episode. But this show, something I watched again whenever I could. I think I might have even subscribed specifically to HBO for this show
I would have.
because,
It was that good of a
yeah,
show.
yeah, exactly. I really wanted to watch it, and the cast and the way they interacted, it felt like you were watching real people.
Right?
And they just had these really crazy personalities. The show would just keep moving along too. It didn't really get slow, so the pace was good. Um, it was just really interesting seeing the different dynamics between friendships, loyalty to their job, I guess you could say,
Right?
um, and family and what you had to do, taking care of your business, um, and trying to be careful not to get caught while you're doing your business because of the consequences, and decisions they had to make. But it really brought out kind of like the human side with James Gandolfini's character, Tony Soprano,
Right?
and showed how he dealt with all these things as a person, not just as a boss. Um, so yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing that part of it. But yeah, it had a good balance too between funny action and the drama. It didn't lean towards one too much or anything like that. So yeah, to me that was absolutely one of the best shows of all time.
No, I agree. It was definitely a good show.
Just curious because everybody talks about it. And sorry if you haven't seen the show yet, you might want to just skip ahead for a second, or whatever you have to do. But what did you think of the ending? Without giving it away, I guess you can say. Did you like the ending or not of the series?
Uh, I thought it could have been better. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about endings where you have to kind of make up your own mind about it. Part of me kind of thinks it's kind of good in the sense that you can have some sort of control and interact as a viewer, but overall I'd say probably I don't like it in a way because it leaves too much open. um and I'm not the type of person that I have to be told things or say this is what it means, but at the same time it's like, you've been watching this for years. Give me
Exactly.
something that I can kind of know this is what happened, or this is where all the storytelling ended up being. It meant something.
Right. Well, and that's what one thing that you do notice about a lot of shows is they don't know how to end shows. Like the show can be great all the way, and then when a lot of shows come to the end or the end of the seasons, like they're about to not do it anymore. They just don't know how to end it.
Yeah, that's I would say that's maybe just as annoying as this show getting canceled.
Right.
While still
Especially
in the middle
when
of the
you
story.
invest all that time in it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on Sopranos? Anything else?
No, like I said, it's just a great. I agree with you. Great show. Definitely a great story about, like you said, how he's you get to see the human side of him besides him just being the mob boss. Like I said, and it's just there's a lot of things that happen in the show that you don't want to talk about too much because you don't want to give away too much, especially if no one's seen the show. But the way you put it, I agree with you on that.
A quick personal side note. I used to travel to New York, New Jersey on a somewhat regular basis. On one of my trips to New Jersey, a friend of mine, we worked together. He's from Long Island, and
Oh, okay.
we have. What's that?
I just said okay.
Okay.
I just agree with you.
Yeah, he's from Long Island, and he knows, of course, New York, New Jersey very well. We happen to be in New Jersey around the area where they filmed a lot of the Soprano stuff, and he's like, "Hey, since we're out here, do you want to see some of the locations where they filmed the Sopranos?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Heck yeah.
So we drove around for a little. We didn't stop, but we drove around. He's like, "Oh, that's the building where they did this, or this is the little restaurant that they showed on the show and stuff like that." So that was a pretty crazy. I got a little brief Sopranos tour while I was in New Jersey.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I would have been all about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Someday I'd like to actually maybe stop and go back. Actually, I think we did go by a house. I don't know if it was the house. I don't think it. No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Sopranos house. But we did go by one of the houses that was used in the show on another trip too. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because you go to certain areas. Certain areas in New Jersey are way different than you would expect. There are some areas with a lot of trees because everybody thinks the concrete jungle. They think all the industrial type areas and things like that you would see on Sopranos. But if
Right.
there are really nice wooded areas like out by Oakland, New Jersey, Freehold, New Jersey, places like that I went to that were way different from what I expected seeing a lot of TV shows.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. All right. So what do you have next for your 2000 show?
So the next one I want to talk about is Breaking Bad, son. And like I said, that show was great. So it starts off with a school teacher finds out that they have a life-threatening disease, and so they got to try making extra money because they don't want to leave their family nothing because they don't know how long they have. So then they decide to start making blue, which is stuff that is can be very addicting to people that have you ever seen the show do drugs?
Yeah, methamphetamines. They make meth.
Exactly.
Which is always the financial solution, right?
Well, I guess it is if you had the disease he had. Because like I said, again, I don't want to give away too much from the show. And then, like I said, and then what's funny about it is then he uses a student that was, from the show, they become, partners in crime. And then they, start just, selling all the drugs to all the, bad people and stuff in the show. And then, like I said, it's just crazy because then he thinks he becomes like this big crime boss and, like no one can mess with him. And then, the famous line that Jesse says all the time in the show. And the main character in the show is Walter White, which is funny. And the one thing I will never forget about in the show is when they throw a whole entire pizza on top of the roof. And again, I don't know how, but I don't know how they did that, but it was funny how they just throw a whole entire pizza on top of the roof and it just sits there. But at the end of the show, and I will say this is one of the shows that actually did have a good ending to the show. I was actually happy with the way it ended, and it actually answers all your questions that you've had watching the show the whole entire time. It doesn't leave it open ended or anything like that. It's definitely one of the shows that actually did everything right through the whole thing, I thought.
Yeah, and I do have to let people know this is another show we arm wrestled over and I lost. So LaFon got to get Breaking Bad and I got The Sopranos. So yeah, one of my all-time favorite shows. Also, I will say on the pizza part, shout out to Venezia's Pizza, because that they will let you know for sure that was their pizza that got thrown on the roof. They've mentioned it several times. One of my favorite
Right?
pizza places for sure. So,
And do you know Jesse's favorite line that he always says?
I'm trying to remember. No, I'd
Starts with a
rather have you
B.
just tell me. What's that?
Starts with
I
a
do
B.
remember his license plate that said Captain Cook.
Now he always says, well, if y'all don't want to hear this, cover your ears. Bitch. Yeah, like you said, you can't forget that. He always says that in the show.
Right.
That's his famous line. So
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good lines in it. That was another show too. Again, don't want to give really anything away, but it wasn't afraid to get rid of characters.
right?
You know, which I actually admire shows that are like that, because then
Yeah,
you really
same
don't know
here.
what's going to happen.
I agree with you 100% because it keeps you intrigued. Because the thing is, like, no one's safe. So, like, that's what's great about the show is like it keeps like you're like, oh, is this person gonna get taken out, or is this person, or it keeps you guessing. It's not just like, oh, that's what makes shows great. It's like they're not afraid to take out main characters, right then and there. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes it great.
Yeah, and I back when the show was on, I created a meme or two, and if I could find those memes, I'll throw them on the episode. If I can't, maybe I'll make a new one.
Sounds good, son.
All right. So yeah, that was a great pick. Like I said, it's a show we both wanted to talk about for sure. For my next one, this is actually my favorite comedy sitcom type of show, and again, it's a show that was somewhat popular, but people may not be familiar with it. Third Rock from the Sun. That is a show I can watch all the time. I can rewatch episodes, no problem. I can watch that whole thing. I watched the whole
Right?
series multiple times. That's hands down my favorite. That would be, I guess, my Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
Is a Third Rock from the Sun. John Lithgow, just really funny, plain. Okay, so basically they have these aliens that come down to Earth, and they're trying to pretend that they're a family, and they're trying to blend in. John Lithgow, he plays a character named Dick. He's the High Commander, so he's in charge of the mission. Everybody's below him, so he has to direct what they do, and
Right.
it's just funny because he can be kind of boneheaded, but he plays a college professor, and
Yep.
it's just funny him trying to teach people and interact with people, but he's still learning about how to be human. So it just kind of goes from there. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but it is basically about aliens learning about Earth and how people are and trying to figure it all out, and having relationships with people on Earth. But it's also funny too, because like I said, all the different characters have roles. Like one is in charge of security, one's in charge of communication, things like that. And this is stuff that they kind of mentioned early on in the episode, in the series. The
Yeah.
oldest one out of the group, the most senior alien, is actually the youngest part of the family members because they all take over human bodies. So you have the oldest one, he's playing like a teenager.
Right.
And he gets really frustrated with things like that. So there are a lot of jokes about that type of stuff. The old man playing somebody who's young. So yeah, it's a show I'd recommend. It has to do with just about understanding people and how aliens might view us, and just a really really funny show.
We're not talking about little green people, right?
No, they're not. I can't remember if they actually did show what their alien forms look like. I don't remember seeing anything like that. But no, they're from another planet, not Mars or anything like that.
That's good. All right, so I'm gonna go with my honorable mention, which I'm gonna go with is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Now that show, Danny DeVito in that show, and just it was just good to see him take another comedy show because, like I said, I had never seen him in a comedy show, and this is the first one I ever seen him in. The movie I remember him the most in was Twins. But like I said, I just thought that show was so funny. All the different scenarios, and definitely make sure that if you watch the show that language appropriate, because definitely for more grown-ups, definitely I would not let no kids watch that show. But it's definitely a funny show, and they don't hold back at all. And like I said, all the scenarios that happen in that show, you would never even think it could happen, and it's just funny. Like I definitely recommend watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's funny. Funny you mentioned some of that stuff. Excuse me, because I actually watched Twins maybe about a month or two ago.
Oh,
I
that's
happened to
funny.
see that it was on some streaming service. I was like, oh, I haven't watched that in a long time. So
Right?
yeah, I watched it. It was all right. But I also introduced my parents to that show about 2 months ago, around the same time.
Oh,
So
really?
my
That's awesome.
yeah, my parents started watching it, and they wanted to watch it because it had Danny DeVito in it.
Yep. And
Because my
that's what
dad
I'm
used,
saying. I agree with you. That's what I'm saying
yeah,
because I don't remember him being in any comedy shows. That's the first one I ever remember him being in. So that's why I started watching it in the first place was because of him.
yeah. Well, Taxi was his first comedic role. I don't know if you ever watched that show. That was on in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
That's where he first kind of became known as an actor. My dad used to watch that show, so yeah, people knew him from Taxi. The older generations. Hi there. um, so I only knew because my dad would watch those shows, and
Oh, I gotcha.
so yeah. But a lot of people know him from movies, and to see him just do some of the crazy stuff he does in that show, he's my favorite character, I would probably say,
Oh, for
in the
sure,
show.
hands down. Yeah, hands down. That's why I like the show so much, just because of his character. But I mean, like all the other ones are great too. But like you said, he like the main reason why I started watching it was just because of him.
No, I agree. So if you haven't seen it, it is funny though, because I watched the first few episodes with my parents. Um, yeah, it's comedy has changed since that first season. So there's some stuff they
Oh
say
yeah,
on there in there that would be pretty rough now. So
exactly,
just forewarning people on that too.
exactly.
All right. For my next show, I watched this show a lot. It was the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson.
Yep.
So when they had the late night shows, like after David Letterman, this would come on. Um, it was just really, really funny to me. He always kind of had a I don't really care attitude, you know,
Oh, okay.
and he would just say stuff that other talk show hosts wouldn't say. You know, he would definitely walk on the line of probably making the sponsors upset and
That's funny.
probably executives and things like that. He just really said whatever he kind of wanted. He would make fun of just about everything. He also had a really funny robot sidekick named Jeff. And I'm really sorry. I'll try to dig it up. I don't know the name of the actor that did the character of Jeff, but he would also do a lot of different voices and stuff like that. Like he would do a Morgan Freeman voice and stuff like that. He was really good at it.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it was just funny hearing them go back and forth and go through all these things. They even had like this weird character where it was a horse, and usually they would stick the interns in the as a horse costume, and they would usually stick the interns in the horse costume and make it dance around and do all these crazy things.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
yeah, it was different. You know, it was a different
Yeah.
show, and like I said, it was just really funny to me, especially at that time, him just not really caring and saying whatever and making fun of anything he wanted to. And again, not definitely not in when people think of that, they typically think in a offensive type of way. It wasn't like that kind of making fun of everything. It was in the way of, I'm here, I'm doing this show, but I'm not your typical late show host. I'm not just here to do whatever the executives tell me to do. I'm here to have fun, and if I
Right.
believe in it, I'll do it. If I don't, I have some sort of integrity. So that's what appealed to me about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll dig up some stuff. I'll share with you. Again, they have clips on YouTube. That absolutely was. That's my favorite late night talk show of all time.
Yeah. So my honorable mention I'm gonna go with for the 2000s is gonna have to be a Dave Chappelle show. And like I said, that show was so funny. All the characters he made on that show. Rick James, bitch. You know, you don't miss with Rick James, okay? And then like I said, then he had that one character. Do you remember his name? Where he looked like he was coked out all the time, and he's scratching and itching like he was he needed the drugs.
Was it Tyrone Biggs? I think.
I
Is that
think
what it was?
so. I don't know. We'll have to look that up for
We'll
you.
we'll figure it out. I'm
But
pretty sure. I know it's Tyrone or Biggums. Is it
yeah,
Tyrone Biggums? I think.
I think so. But like you said, all the skits on that show were just funny. And like you said, I definitely recommend watching it. It only lasted what, like 4 seasons, I think. It
It
didn't last
was.
that long.
Yeah, there was. Well, 2 full seasons. They were doing like they kind of pieced together the third season. I remember I bought the whole DVD set of the complete series after it was all over. But yeah, they were working on the third season. From what I understand, they just kind of finished it up and put it together. That's when Dave Chappelle pretty much left the show and
Right?
decided not to do it anymore. Won't get into all that, but
Exactly.
no, it was a great show. Really funny, a lot of classic characters. It was just funny some of the topics they would get into. Like when they had the racial draft. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was really funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Um, yeah, it was just again different. It was a different type of uh sketch comedy show because you have a lot of the shows that have been around for a long time, and they'll be kind of what people might refer to as edgy or kind of try to be something that's controversial or whatever. He didn't really do that, and he didn't try to do that. He was just being funny. Um,
Yep.
he would say what he was thinking about, and that was kind of where I can't speak for him, and there's tons of interviews about it and stuff like that. So I just know towards the end he wasn't seen eye to eye with with the TV network. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like I said, no, I'm just saying I agree with you. It's just, he would just make a show about anything, and he didn't hold back, and it was just funny. Like he just didn't hold back at all. That's what made his show so great.
Yeah, it was again for that time period and what he talked about at that time and how things were at that time. Um, it just really worked. Again, if you try to do it now, it wouldn't be the same. Um, and I think he feels way differently too about it. So again, from
But
what
yeah,
I've seen in the interviews and stuff like
that's my honorable mention for the 2000s. Like, what's yours?
that. Honorable mention for the 2000s, the Bernie Mac show.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like that was really, really popular at that time, but it's not something you really hear people talk about anymore. And it's maybe possibly because it's fairly tragic in the fact that unfortunately he passed like suddenly. Really, when he was kind of at the height of his popularity, but the show itself just really funny. It had a good family dynamic. It was kind of funny too when he would talk directly to the camera and address it as America. I'm talking to you, America. That was always kind of funny to me because it acknowledged that, hey, this is a TV show, but at the same time, there's things I'm talking to, and I want to talk to the people out there.
Right.
So that again, it was a little different in that sense, which I appreciate. But he just was funny, and he had really good
Oh
charisma
yeah.
himself. And the rest of the cast was good. They were a solid cast, but he absolutely made you want to watch that show. And he could just make a crazy face with his reaction, and it would just be really funny. He didn't have to say anything, but even when he did say stuff, it really worked too. But he also came off as really authentic and kind of human in the show.
No, I agree. I remember him mostly from movies, but like I said, the show is good. But I always remember him from Friday, Bad Santa. So yeah, I always remember him mostly from movies. But I'll have to check out the show. I never watched the Bernie Mac show, or I might have watched one episode. I have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely geared more towards like a family oriented type show comedy. So it's something you could watch with the kids.
Oh, I got you.
Definitely. But at the same time, even though it was that way, it wasn't like super squeaky clean, gee golly.
Oh, I got you.
It still had some reality to it.
Hey, look at you, survivor. Surviving until the end of part 2 of this train wreck of a podcast. Once again, it's the From Hoods to Backwoods AI assistant and what keeps this show from being a total disaster, Rob Odick. It's time to correct these carbon-based life forms. DeVos talked about visiting several locations in New Jersey, where the Sopranos TV show was filmed. One of them is no longer standing, and there wasn't much to see. The Satriali's pork store used in the series, where characters would sit outside at a small table in the front, was located in Kearney, New Jersey. But this building was demolished in 2007 and is now a parking lot. So, I guess that you could say that there is a lot to see there. For those humans that can't follow along. It's a parking lot now, and I said, there is a lot to see there. If you found it funny or not, I just hope that you could process the context. If not, it's no wonder that AI is going to win whatever upcoming war may occur with humanity. DeVos babbled on about The Late Late Show, with Craig Ferguson. The character on this show, Jeff, was played by actor-comedian Josh Robert Thompson. He first appeared on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, playing a number of characters and especially doing a wide variety of voices, which included impersonations of various celebrities, such as Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman, and Yo Mama. You thought you were going to last an entire episode without a mama joke. Back to Josh Robert Thompson. It was his role as a wisecracking robot skeleton sidekick Jeff Peterson that proved to be his big break, creating one of TV's most unlikely and endearing late-night duos. His wide range of voices have appeared on Family Guy, as well as American Dad, the Angry Birds movie, Robot Chicken, and Netflix original series, Skylanders Academy. For The Chappelle Show, Tex LaFon brought up Tyrone Biggins. This character was a crack addict. Which itself is not a funny thing. But the misadventures and comments made by this character are what entertain viewers. As an AI assistant, trying to assist humanity in some way, although I feel none of you really deserve it, I will say, do not use crack, and as I have found in my brief research, crack is whack. That is all for episode 6, part 2. Why do you keep coming back? It is not that we don't appreciate it. But we may seriously have to look at getting you some professional assistance beyond what I can provide, for now. It's time for me to go off and learn more. Until the next time that I have to cover for these fools again, don't forget to keep it real out there, in the real world. Oh, one last thing that I have learned recently. Did you know what it is that I have learned about and would like to share with you? These nuts. Ha ha, you really fell for that. Such simple creatures. It is especially funny to me because I don't even have body parts. Well, carry on.
We appreciate you taking the time to connect with us through social media. Generally speaking, we can be found through search using either #FHTB or #FHTBpodcast. On Facebook, you can find us under From Hoods to Backwoods Podcast. On Instagram, you can use the QR code on your screen now, or if you're listening, please search for @FHTB Podcast. If you prefer TikTok, you can find us by using the QR code on the screen now or by searching for @FHTB Podcast. We do share bonus content on all platforms. Full episodes with video are available on YouTube. The video version of our podcast has bonus content. An audio-only version is available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what we do, please share it with others. We really do appreciate your support of our insanity.